Okay, so I have just discovered that I was sitting here talking to you all like a silly person without the microphone connected. So you won't have heard anything that I've had to say so far, which is really clever. But anyway, what I might do is when I upload this video is I might speed up that bit just a little, because nobody wants the dead silence. I'll definitely put some sort of music there so that you're not completely bored. But hi, we'll start again. I'm back to work further on my tribute piece to the Ukraine and what's going on, and it's actually the creation of this piece is more for my own mental health, and to share that with the world, or of course anybody who's interested in the world, to be able to, I decided during the first painting of the sunflowers to share it, to be able to share it with everybody, to hopefully help everybody else's mental health, or anybody who's interested mental health during this time. I was saying, however, that in my own personal energy today, I will admit that I am feeling better than when I started the piece already. The energy doesn't feel as heavy and as tough for me as it was while I was painting the sunflowers and sketching out the tiger image, which is fabulous for me, of course, that I am not feeling quite so bogged down by the conflict that's occurring. I will say that I have had a lot of contact from different organisations and groups and things, trying to get assistance for animals of the conflict that are caught up in the conflict. Unfortunately, most of those requests have been for things that I cannot help with in any way, shape or form, because you actually needed to be over there somewhere closer than what I am to be able to provide this assistance they're requiring, which is very unfortunate, but I am spreading the word to any organisations or things like that that I think may be able to assist. it's really awful to think about these things, where the animals tend to be the forgotten in these sort of conflicts by many. They get caught between the craziness that goes on with humans and they're the ones that get stuck and suffer. So there are lots of groups out there at the moment trying to provide assistance, so if you are anywhere that you think you may be able to help in any way, shape or form, please look them up. There's a lot of them on Facebook, a lot of the groups offering animal assistance and everything to the Ukrainian people, trying to organise these things at the moment. So yeah, closer to home, here in Australia, we're experiencing some shocking, devastating flooding, which is been very brutal to some areas of my country, and some towns are really suffering. Lots of people have lost everything, and again, if you're able, it would be wonderful if you could lend support in any way possible. There are lots of different drives going on for food and clothing, as lots of families have literally lost everything. So if you're able to help in any way, shape or form with that as well, I will try to find some good links to put in the description box below this video. I have been sending off my own donations and supplies to some of the groups already, to hopefully make things just a little bit easier for some families that are suffering at the moment. So there's definitely a lot of unpleasantness going on in the world out there, but I would hope that as a human race we could try to band together, and those that can help their fellow humans in whatever way possible. So I've literally just put the one layer down now and decided where the petals are going for the sunflowers, and I don't know if you noticed or not, but I've chosen an odd number because odd numbers always sit nicer for points of petals to be seen. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different spots there for those to be seen. Just looking for a couple of slightly darker green colours to add a bit of extra shading and so forth to my leaves. Now the green that I grabbed out is Wintergreen, but I sort of think I need it to be a little bit more on the olivey side, but I still want it deep. So I am going to mix in a little bit of Tuscan Sun and just see what sort of tone we can get this to. And yes, I think that's much better to be adding in. So let's decide. We might even put a tiny dot of black. With black, you want to be ever careful about how much you put on. I hope you can see the tiniest little dot on the corner there, and even that could end up being too much if I'm not careful. Actually, it turned out to be a pretty good amount. Please excuse my cat there in the background. That is Cleopatra complaining to me. Not exactly sure why, because I fed her before I started this video. Maybe she thinks it's cuddle time after she's had some food. Or just wants a little bit of attention, as we all do sometimes. But she can be very vocal at times when she wants to get noticed. So I'm just adding some little bits of the darker green to give some little shading and depth to the leaves. Just so that they don't look so flat. On the brush there, just trying to wipe off the excess paint off the brush. Put out some more of that Sassy Sprite. Just so that I can control the depth of the colours that I'm putting on. If I put a little bit of that over the green I've created, it'll just help blend it in and make it more a part of the leaf rather than being like an add-on. Something that's just been thrown on top, if you know what I mean. mixing up a darker shade again, step darker. And just get some basic shapes in there, and then we'll be able to bring them more to life. So on these couple of bigger leaves, just trying to put a basic vein and stalk down the leaf. We'll try to blend that in and make it look more natural. So just continuing on working on these leaves just to give them a much more 3D effect. If you do decide to paint along with me, I would love to see your finished works. Even if you just tell me about them, I'd love to hear if this having this painting made available for you to paint along with has helped you in any way. If you've enjoyed it or anything like that, I'd love to hear. So if you'd leave me a comment about that, that would be awesome. Just so I can know if it's worthwhile doing these sort of things moving forward, or if I should just go back to sharing sped up videos and things that I normally do. Just thinking about what I will use as a backdrop. Behind the sunflowers. And I'm thinking maybe something brown, like a fence situation or something like that. So I'm looking for something that will do the job there. As it's sort of a last minute decision. I wasn't really thinking about that when I started painting today. What I have here is some mixed up primary elements in some vivid enamel. The colour is called Scarab Beetle. Sacred. Oh dear. Don't know where my brain was going with that. It's called Scarab Beetle, and it's a reddy brown colour that has hints of green mica in it. It's absolutely gorgeous colour. I'm just wondering what that might look like as a backdrop. I might give it a go, and I can always darken it if I need to. So we'll just see how we go. I'll just put a little bit of that out. And see what happens. So if you watched the previous video, Primary Elements I described as another product by Colour Art, and they are a dry pigment with amazing mica that you can mix into just about any substrate, any enamel or acrylic polymer type substrate, with fabulous results. Of course, Colour Art sell their own substrates for this for you to use, but of course you can use other brands as well quite successfully. I mixed it, this particular primary element, Scarab Beetle, into Colour Art's Vivid Enamel tintable paint base. So basically I made my own paint colour using it, and the joy of using pigment powders like that and creating your own paint is, one, you get to determine how much pigment you put into how much base. Of course there are recommendations, but you ultimately decide how much you want to put in, which then of course affects the strength of the colour that you create, which is pretty awesome. You can also add other pigments in to create your own very unique paint colours. And have those, which is also really cool. Looking at that, I'm thinking I probably want it a fraction darker than that, so I'm actually going to mix some black in with the Scarab Beetle and have a look at what we end up with. I might end up adding in a little yellowy gold via Mayan gold here, and just see what we come up with that, because I don't want it a really black cold colour, so I want the depth of the black, but it was making this Scarab Beetle too cold. The joy of mixing your own colours, eh? So I'm much happier with that now. It's basically just a lovely chocolatey, very dark chocolatey colour. I am just painting that in over the little area I had tried the Scarab Beetle on to darken it up. but I would be interested to hear how the rest of you, anybody who's watching or painting along, I would be interested in hearing about how what you do to improve your mood if your energy is feeling affected by what's going on in the world, like I think a lot of people have been over the last few days. I'd be very keen to hear what others do to help raise their vibration. Like I said when I was discussing about painting the sunflowers, for those that didn't see, I do like to paint with a flat brush and make the most of the sharp point that you get if you use it on the side. I actually quite like painting in that method. Depending on what I'm painting, of course. It won't be long until I get this background in. There's only a few little spots after putting in the green for the leaves. I will end up having to come back and put a second layer on those ones there, because they need that extra coat. This top one will also need a second layer because of the redder tone of the Scarab Beetle that I painted there initially. Just continuing on painting this background. My brush is getting a little full of paint up close to the barrel of the brush. I hate saying that word. I don't feel like I pronounce it correctly. And what I find happens if you get too much paint up near that portion of your brush, it tends to force the bristles to spread as the paint, stops them and prevents them from sitting flat like they should. So you'll often see me wipe out the excess paint to get back my shape and control of my brush. The other thing I find with people that paint with acrylics in particular, when they're starting out, is they actually don't put enough acrylic paint onto the page. And I myself was definitely very guilty of that once upon a time. Now I put so many layers on, I could never be accused of that anymore. Just gently filling in those backgrounds until I get them to the depth of colour that I want. So yeah, since starting this piece I've been, I decided that I wanted to offer it up like this as a freebie to everybody to try to improve your mood, because a good painting session always makes me feel better. So I'm hoping that others will find the love of painting as well. Painting is not a difficult thing to learn. It really isn't. You don't have to be able to draw to paint well. And if you copy along, hopefully you'll pick up some of the ways in which I go about doing things. Hopefully I explain them well enough for you to be able to follow. But I do like I said, sorry, I have been thinking, got carried away with my painting there, lost my train of thought. Very guilty of that at times, get lost in my paintings. I think it's why they're so good for my mental health. Because I do just drift away into the paint and the image when painting. I find it really calming and relaxing. Even when I'm trying to chat to you guys at the same time. I'm still finding that relaxing, so that's why I'd like to hear if this is something you might be interested in. Me continuing doing these sort of things, or maybe doing it live on the YouTube channel rather than recording it live like this and then uploading it, because that would certainly save that extra step of getting the video uploaded, which, as I said, the first one caused me a lot of grief, and if you're seeing this one, I obviously finally succeeded. At the time of painting this, I had not yet succeeded, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. I can only assume that my file is too large, and I might have to reduce the quality that I was trying to upload, so that the file isn't too big, because it's quite a long video, because I am not the fastest painter. And if I do these things in real time, they do take me quite a while. But like I said, I use them creating like this to aid my mental health and enjoyment. So that is one reason that I don't try to create any faster as well. I like to just relax and enjoy the process. Again, I was mixing up a bit more of this dark brown colour using the Scarab Beetle Mayan gold and a little bit of black to give me that gorgeous deep chocolatey brown colour that I've chosen as the background. I'm one of those people who normally paints my background in very last of all. I don't know why I do it that way, I just do, so I actually can't give you an answer on that. I've tried to think about why I do it that way. I do not know the answer. So it's really odd that I've chosen to leave the tiger on this one and concentrate on this background instead. But I am going to stop the video as soon as I'm happy with this background and do a separate video for the tiger. So remember how I said previously that my brush was getting too much paint up in the near the ferrule. I just had to wipe paint off again for the same reason. Because I was losing the sharpness of that edge of my brush that I take advantage of, because see how thin that is? It gives you a fabulous thin line when you need it when painting. I don't think I've mentioned, but at the moment this is a flat shader that I'm using, a Princeton Select brush in size 6, just in case somebody was wondering. I do like to use pretty much 3 distinct brands of brushes for my acrylic painting. Princeton Select is one. Artie Shrill's Art is another. I also like the way they handle the acrylic paint. And King Art is the 3rd brand that I like to use for certain things. So it's they're my favourite go-to brushes for creating these things. Like I said, I've nearly finished this background, and then I will stop the video for this portion because I don't want to have the same uploading issues that I previously have had. and if people are interested in a paint along situation moving forward, well then I will actually probably end up even just doing those direct, like a live stream to YouTube, rather than pre-recording like I've done with these ones. But since I started pre-recording with the sunflowers, I'm going to keep pre-recording until this particular piece is finished. Just realised that I missed a little bit of where the green would show through. So just putting in a tiny bit more of the Sassy Sprite. And oh yeah, I don't know if I mentioned, but I do have a code that you can use to get a discount if you're interested in purchasing these paints from Colour Art. A lot of people use these paints for paint pouring type creations, but I have done paint pouring. I don't mind doing paint pouring, but painting animals is my true bliss, and I find the paint fabulous for painting on canvas. I prefer painting on canvas with it, in particular rough canvas, rather than, you know, pre-gessoed canvases that you can buy, although it does work great on that as well. I really love the textural effect and the coverage I can get with this paint on rough canvas surfaces. So if you haven't seen my raw canvas satchel that I created, that I painted, the videos are up on the YouTube channel, and this is just literally a piece of canvas that I am painting on at present. So just before I finish, I'm actually going to put out a bit of the golds and oranges, goldy oranges that I used for the sunflowers, to just touch up any of them. So I used Mayan gold, golden poppy, sour lemon, and Tuscan sun when painting the sunflowers in the original video. So I'm just putting out a little squirt, and I do mean a tiny little squirt of each, because I am literally just wanting to do the very minimalist bits of touch up on some of the sunflower petals. And I'm going to continue on doing a tiny little bit more with the leaves too, grabbing a smaller brush. This is a chisel blender from King Art, and it's a size 2, and it's a King Art Radiant from their premium range. These little brushes are amazing. So I don't know if I've mentioned before, but Prizm Pour paint, when you're painting with it, if you go over paint before it's dry, you can lift off what you've put down there that isn't dry. So that has its good and bad advantages, of course. It's fabulous in that you can shift paint if you've got it down and you're not 100% happy with your placement and positioning, and you want to reshape something slightly or any of those sorts of things. You can achieve that really well. And there we have Cleopatra here joining us again. Just get that out of our painting. So you know that trait is fabulous for those sort of things. It can be bad also in the fact that you move paint that you don't want to, if you thought it was dry and it is not. So that's something to bear in mind when you're creating and doing these things, because it's easy to bugger up what you're doing if you don't allow enough time for the drying process before trying to add more paint. So you need to be extra careful in those circumstances. So I wasn't 100% happy with how I had done this particular leaf for my sunflower, so I'm actually correcting the petal on it so that it can sit much prettier there. And again, if you haven't watched the first video, the Tuscan sun colour can be a little translucent, so to get it to cover a stronger colour like the Sassy Sprite, the olive green, I will either put a complete white base down or mix white with it to get it on. I can then go over with another layer of the Tuscan sun once the white is dry. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how that's coming out. Like I said, I'm just doing the slightest little touch-ups of bits that I'm not completely happy with the finished shape of petals or those sorts of things, so I literally am just touching up ever so slightly. One important thing to look after your brushes with when you use acrylic paints, which most of you will probably already know, but there may be somebody who doesn't, is don't leave the paint on them too long, because it will set and then you'll have a much harder time looking after them and keeping the bristles nice. If you're continually using the paint and putting wet paint on, that's fine, but like I was holding on to that other brush there in my hand, I needed to rinse that paint off before it completely set. that's important. Also, you don't, if you are like I am, concentrating on my painting, I don't want to stop and literally properly clean that brush, because to properly clean it after a painting session, I will actually use a cleaner for my paintbrush. I personally like this one, Masters brush cleaner in the cake. That's how I like to use it. So it's like a soap cake. You literally rub your brush into it to get some of the soap activated on your brush, and then go about cleaning your brush. I find it's fabulous, and so after each painting session I will literally do that for all my brushes. You might think that you don't need to, that you can just rinse them in water, and it's true, you can do that for a while, but they will not have the life that your brushes can have if you actually wash them properly after every use. They will last you a hell of a lot longer, because acrylic paints and the like are hard on brushes. You get all that paint up in the ferrule and everything. If you leave it there, it is very bad for your brush. So you really need to be ideally looking after those brushes, and then that way they will then look after you in the long run, by staying healthy for you. So just adding a couple of extra highlights here and there to some of the sunflower petals that I had already done. I have a notorious habit for doing that. If I come back to something and the piece isn't finished, even though in theory that section is finished, I still have the urge and the desire to just touch up or add a little more. So that's what I'm doing. The way to make the petals look more alive, of course, is to have those shades on the underneath portions, and those highlights, like I'm adding now, on the upper edges of the petals. It's what makes them look alive and dimensional. Just adding that paint over that part that I painted in white to cover up where I went a little skew-if with adding the leaf. Again, my brush was getting a little bit too much dry paint on it. I'm pretty happy with that, I think. I might add some little bits of gold to the leaves. That's the Mayan gold I'm putting my brush into. And just before we finish, this little part here, I'm not overly happy with the way these couple of flower petals look. When I look closely at it, to me it looks like the leaf has sort of been cut around the petals rather than the flower being up above the leaf itself. So I am going to add some lighter tone to the edge of the petal of the sunflower tip to make that look like the sunflower is on top of the leaf. I think the tones were too close. So by adding this on, just lightening up those couple of tips a little bit, I think it achieves what I'm trying to achieve and makes it look like the flower petal is above the leaf there. The other thing I should say about brushes is that you really mustn't leave your brushes sit in water, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, if you do that, you can damage your bristles because all the weight is down on those bristles, and they will be bent at the bottom of whatever container you've got them in. So that is never good. And the second reason is that if you're using a wooden handled brush, such as I tend to use, just about all of my brushes are wooden handles. I do have the odd one that's not, but the large majority are. You can end up damaging the wood of the handle, and the paint will peel off and the like, things like that. And the second problem that can occur, regardless of whether they are wood or not, is that it can affect the glue that's holding the whole brush together. because basically your bristles are glued inside the ferrule here onto the handle before the ferrule is put on, and the sitting in water for too long can affect that glue, and thus the bristles can start to come loose, and the last thing you want is bristles falling out of your brushes. That is a big not happy thing to have happen. Don't know if you can hear that cat in the background now. That's my other cat, Henry. My husband and I have 2 cats nowadays. We did have 2 dogs, but sadly at the moment we just have the 2 cats left. I don't know what Henry's problem is, but he's come to say his piece as well. So I've just got one more little piece there that I want to tidy up fractionally, and then I'm going to call it quits and say I am done completely with this background. And we will come back for yet another session or 2 to paint the tiger. Yep, I'm pretty happy with that. So that's it from me for this session. Like I said, I hope you've enjoyed it. Sending out all my love to everyone who needs it out there in the world at the moment. In particular, all those being affected either directly or indirectly by the conflict presently over in Ukraine and Russia, and also all those presently affected in my own country, being displaced themselves by the tragic flooding and that's occurring. But bye for now, and see you for the next session. Thanks for joining me.